Today is April 2nd, 2017. This is the beginning of my interview with
Randolph Fassett
at the Summer Glen Golf Community. My name is Sam Kwiatkowski and I'll be the interviewer. Could you please tell us your full name and address?
Randolph D. Fassett, Ocala, Florida.
All right. Where were you born?
Sacramento, California.
How old are you today?
74.
Who were your parents and what they do?
My father was a plumber. My mother was basically a housemaker. That's it. I come from a family of plumbers. Me and my grandfather owned the plumbing shop. All my uncles, cousins, they all worked as plumbers.
Do you have any siblings?
One sister, yes. I was out of the house when she was born.
What's her name?
Dorian.
What were you doing before you entered the service?
High school?
Straight out of high school?
Mm-hmm.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
Enlisted the day right after I graduated.
Why did you enlist?
At that point in time, I had no idea what I was doing or where I was going, and it's like, okay, let's get out of Dodge.
All right. Which branch did you choose?
Marine Corps.
Why did you choose that?
They were the only office open when I went down there. Which sounds strange, but the rest of them were closed. And their office was open. I walked in. The guy in charge, the recruiter, talked to me for a minute, and he goes, "No, you're not our material. You wouldn't make it through boot camp." Which kind of ticked me off. So I said, where do you sign? He put a hook in and said it.
That's cool. What rank did you achieve?
Sergeant.
Where did you end up serving?
My last duty station was Camp Lejeune, MP barracks.
Do you remember your basic training?
Oh, very vividly. Yes. I thought basic was fun and pretty easy. Other people struggled with it quite a bit. I came out of high school. I had been running cross country and track. I was in pretty good shape. And I didn't find anything physically that was really challenging there that I couldn't do.
What kind of things did you have to do?
Obstacle course, lots of running, lots of push-ups, lots of up and on shoulders. I don't know if you're aware of what those are, but they're with the weapon at your shoulder, up over your head, back and back of your head, back up. That's the count of one. And then you do them for, 300 times.
Oh, yeah. Where did you receive your basic training?
San Diego.
What weapons did you qualify on during basic training?
M1.
Did you receive any special training?
Combat infantry regiment after boot camp, which is an extension of boot camp. I mean, if you're in, the MOS is 0311 in the Marine Corps, which is infantry. And if you're in that, then they send you on to the infantry school where you learn other weapons, tactics, things of that nature.
Do you recall your instructors?
Yeah, I do recall them. Our senior drill instructor was a gunnery sergeant. I don't remember his name. Very squared away gentleman, never raised his voice, but would lean over and whisper in your ear and scare the bejesus out of you. Then there was a Staff Sergeant Navarro. I used to get in a lot of trouble because I thought he looked funny, and the way he had the Smokey Bear and the way he looked. Every time he'd stand in front of me, I'd think of Smokey the Bear, and I'd start laughing, and he'd just get so ticked off. And I'd get punished a little bit. And the third one was a Staff Sergeant Hooten. I would say he was probably, could have been called a wee bit on the sadistic side. Not my favorite of the whole group.
How did you adapt to military life?
Very easily. I liked it. I liked everything about it.
Were you married or single?
Single.
What do you remember about? So, after boot camp, where did you go?
I went to Marine Barracks Long Beach, and from there I went to Camp Pendleton, 1st Marine Division, 1st Battalion, 7th Marines. We rotated to Okinawa, where we became the 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines. We were there for 13 months. It was my first time in Vietnam. We were over there at that point in time, in 1964. And then we rotated back and became 7th Marines again. I was sent to a special school for Marine Raiders. They were thinking about bringing that particular part of the Marine Corps back at that time. So we went to school down in San Onofre. Very, very close to the training that they received for not buds today, but early buds. A lot of water, a lot of little rubber boats, a lot of running on the beach. I liked it. I ate up every minute of it.
What do you recall about like living life on the base and everything?
They keep you so busy all the time that when you're with, like when we were with the 7th Marines, we were in the field 5 or 6 days a week. When we went over with the 3rd Marines, the same thing. 5 or 6 days we were in the field. You were always running problems, tactics, going to classes. You didn't worry about it. By the time the end of the day would get there, you were tired. I mean, you were up at 5 a.m., you were doing PT. You came back, you cleaned the barracks, you go to chow, you come back, you go to a class, or you'd mount up on the trucks and you would go out to the field. So there was no downtime. You didn't get much time to lay around and go, I'm bored. No, you're never bored.
What would you say your military specialty was?
Small unit leadership.
Did you serve during a war?
Yes. The Vietnam War. I was in service from 1961 till 1967. I was in country in 64, 66, and 67.
Where in Vietnam did you serve?
First of all, we were in Da Nang in 64, and then I was sent up to a special forces camp in Ashau Valley, which is right on the Laotian border. And then in 66 and 67, I served with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines, and we were in I Corps, which is the very top corps. Vietnam is broken down into 4 corps, and we were the very top corps right up on the DMZ. And we spent most of our time up along the DMZ.
Were you part of any specific operations?
Oh, God, yes. Tons of them. I can't remember all of them. Hastings, Prairie 1, Prairie 2, several other prairies I didn't even know about, Operation Turner, and then it goes on from there. Like I said, I can't remember all of them. I think the last time that I looked at my SRB, there were 19 operations total I was on.
What kind of things did you have to do on these operations?
Stick your neck out there and see if they want to chop it off. I mean, basically, they're search and destroy, but you're out there just poking around, trying to get into a fight. That's the nature of it. It was a totally different type of war. You never held ground when you took ground. You gave it up, and they came right back in and took it over, and you go right back in and take it over again, and then come back out. It was pretty ridiculous in many, many aspects.
What are some memories of going overseas?
First time over was a lot of fun. We went on what they called a battalion float as a part of 13 months. And you'd get aboard ship and you would go throughout. You would go to like Taiwan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Japan, et cetera, throughout Southeast Asia, the Philippines. And you pull problems off the ship. And Mike boats would pull up, you'd climb down the rope ladders, get aboard, they'd take you, you'd either do a beach landing or do a fake beach landing and come back. Good liberty, some good ports. You had a lot of fun. A lot of camaraderie. That's the thing that I think myself and most military men that I've talked to miss the most about the military is the camaraderie, that brotherhood that takes place between them. And especially when you talk to men that are combat qualified, you'll find that they really do become a band of brothers.
How'd you stay in contact with your family back home?
I didn't. I wasn't real big with that. I left home when I was almost just before I turned 18, and I really never looked back.
What did you do for recreation when you were off duty?
I don't think you want to get into that. At that point in time, there's a whole lot of drinking and chasing going on.
Okay. Is there anything else from the war that you'd like to talk about?
You know, there's so many aspects of it, but the major thing is just how devastating it is to the people that serve in one. The toll it takes on young men. Most people don't realize, and young men especially, their frontal lobe hasn't really developed yet completely. And you're in the military, and they are probably some of the greatest brain washers in the world. They have to make you ready to do the things that they're going to ask you to do. But they skip over certain parts of it that they don't prepare you for, because if they did, there'd be a lot of people going over the wall. I mean, it would be wonderful that there would never be another war. I mean, it's the most ugly, terrifying, wrenching thing that any human being can go through. If you're lucky to make it through, it still takes its toll on you. I still have friends that are casualties of the war because of Agent Orange and what it's caused, the diseases it's caused them to have, that they're passing away. And for me, it was very hurtful. When we came home, people spit at us. They called us baby killers. We were treated very poorly. We basically retreated inside to ourselves. We didn't be around. We weren't around people. I didn't go around other people. I mean, I went through 4 years of college, and I never made a friend. And I don't know if you've been around colleges or talked to people who go to college, but that's some of the best friendships that are ever formed in their lives. I've never had one friend. College for me was an operation. I would set up my training board in my little apartment that I had, and that's the way I went about going to school. But I did not realize at that time the effect that the war had left with me. And it's still there. You know, I belong to the vet center. I go to meetings there once a week for a group therapy. I have individual therapy. I meet with a psychiatrist at the VA for therapy. And the thing that they never explain to people about post-traumatic stress, which I like to call post-traumatic combat disorder, it's not just stress disorder, it's a combat stress disorder. You have to remember, at being at a very young age, you're put in a place where you're under just incredible stress for 24/7, 365. You never know when something's going to happen. Your body is always on edge. It takes a toll on you because you're dumping serotonin. I mean, you're dumping adrenaline constantly, and a lot of guys become junkies. I mean, you want that high. You look for it again. That's why when they come home, they go riding motorcycles, they go skydiving, they get in trouble. They turn to drugs and alcohol to sort of like counter the pain that they feel. It's what we call you. Instead of taking pills and going to doctors, you self-medicate with alcohol and drugs, which is not the answer. It makes everything worse. But you don't know that. You don't know what's wrong. That's the scary part about it, is that at times you feel like you're going insane. Everything around you is so stable, and you don't belong. It's like you're a stranger in a strange land. So that goes on. I mean, that's another part of combat. But that also, there are parts of it that weren't terrible. I mean, the people I met, the people I served with, the young men that were under my charge, put it that way, were absolutely wonderful. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better group of Marines to be with. I mean, never once did I have anybody disobey an order. There was so much heroism going on at all times. It was incredible. Just so proud of those people. To have the chance to serve with them was the greatest honor of my life. And to be a platoon sergeant and be in charge of men like that was the greatest thing I've ever done. And I miss it every day. I still miss it today.
Where were you when the war ended?
I was in Camp Lejeune. No, I wasn't in Camp Lejeune. I beg your pardon. Where the war ended. Wow. That was 75. I think I was in the Florida Keys.
So, you said you formed like the brotherhood while you were serving.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have like some best friends that you?
There were people in the first tour that were very close friends. But once you start losing people, you start shutting that down and blocking that out. You can't keep doing that. It's too painful. So you make a separation there. There are still people I'm in contact with, and I would consider them friends. I mean, if they called me and said they needed me, I'd be there in 2 minutes. And I would hope that they would do the same. But we're not like we stay in real close contact and write each other. You know, some of us go to some of the meetings and get-togethers that they have as far as with the company, the battalion, etc. I've been to a couple of those, but not that many of them. I don't like to travel. I don't like going on planes. Haven't tried a train yet. Maybe I'll like that.
So how long in total were you overseas?
How long was I totally overseas? Let me see. 30, 26, 34 months.
When you returned home, were you on a boat again?
No, flew home. Another mistake that they make. They break units apart, and everybody went home separately. And within 24 hours, you're coming out of the jungle, and you're landing in San Francisco or in El Toro, and 4 hours into that, you're out in the world. And it's like, what the dickens is going on here? Everything was wrong. Everything had changed. But that wasn't it. I'd changed. Everything basically there was the same. But I had changed a great deal.
How did you adjust back to civilian life?
Still trying. Hasn't been easy, and it hasn't gone well a lot of the times.
What kind of things did you witness while you were in Vietnam?
I really prefer not to go into those.
Okay. Were you ever wounded?
Yes. I was hit with mortar fire twice.
Did you sustain any serious injuries? Did you admire your commanding officers?
A couple of them. The majority of them. They ran them in there to get their SRB stamp so they could go on and get to their next promotion. I mean, I had my last 2 tours there. I had, at one point in time, six company commanders in one 13-month period. Never even knew who they were.
What are some of your most memorable experiences?
Sitting in a bunker at 3 o'clock in the morning and being bombarded with over 1,000 rounds of artillery and mortar fire, and wondering, how did those guys in World War I live through that?
Now, you said you weren't received by your community well when you came home. How were you received by your family?
There was no special homecoming. It was, I went home for a few days leave, and then I left and went on to Camp Lejeune. I wasn't comfortable with being around civilians. My dad was a World War II Navy veteran, and he never said anything to me one way or another. My mother walked around and cursed the war, and that was about it.
What have you done since leaving the military?
It's more like what I haven't done. I mean, I had over 50 jobs in the number of years that I worked. Some years I didn't work. I mean, I just didn't work. I went to school, got my degree, got married, got divorced, moved to the Keys. And I found a place in the Keys that was very comfortable. There were a lot of ex-military and a lot of ex-patriots. And nobody cared much about anything. It's very much like being in the military. I fell into fishing, which I found was something I could do that I was comfortable with. I had my own boat and commercially fished for a couple of years, and then I lost that in a hurricane. And then I went on to working on charter boats, and from charter boats I went to working on private boats. But I jumped boats like you'd change your socks every day. I had a lot of problems with authority, and probably still do. It's one thing that's left over. But I never had a career or anything that I could say, this is what I really wanted to do with my life. It was whatever came up, if I needed some money, I went to work. I've washed dishes, I've tended bar, I've cleaned and swept restaurants at night after they closed. I mean, just whatever it took to get by. I was not motivated to do anything in terms of career orientation because I'd already had my career. And when I tried to do something and be serious about it, I always ended up equating it to what I did in the Marine Corps, and it was so superfluous that it didn't make any difference. What I was doing was making $1, that's it.
Did any of your siblings serve in the military?
No.
How has your military experience impacted your feelings about war?
It's the most terrible, horrific, unconscionable thing that's ever taken place with the humankind. It rips out your soul and it breaks your heart. Nobody should ever have to experience that. I mean, nobody. And I'd be real happy if there wasn't another one. But it's not the nature of the human being. Whether it's mankind himself or whether it's the military-industrial complex, I don't know which one is responsible. It's probably both of them. But I would hope at some time we could, as a species, come to grips with that and say, this is totally counterproductive. I mean, it tears not only the individuals apart, it tears the societies apart. It tears countries apart. I mean, you take a look at a place like Bosnia, Somalia. I mean, my Lord, the horror that's taken place in those. And men are responsible for it. Got to stop it. You got to. I don't know what it is up in there that causes us to want to do that, but if there's anything psychology can work on, it's finding out what takes place that causes man to want to do or be involved in war, and then find some way to block that out, whether it's with chemicals or whether it's with an operation, whether it's with gene therapy. I don't care what it is. Find a way to stop it. I just hate to think of young men now having to suffer through what I suffered through. We've got guys in my group that are from Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're wondering the same things. What was it for? What was it all about? Sure wasn't the spoon-fed, this is why you're here theory. In Vietnam, there was no oil, there was no gas, there was no, metals. So it wasn't economic, but it was, at that point in time, there was this idea of this monolithic communist movement. Well, it wasn't. It didn't exist. It was made up. I mean, when you look at the communism of Yugoslavia and Tito, the communism of Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam, I mean, if you really do the studying, Vietnam was stolen from the Vietnamese people because of the World War II and some of the accords that took place there. It's a shame. I mean, then we have 60-something thousand men dead, and they have millions dead because of that. What did it prove? I would like somebody to tell me what it proved. These things don't prove anything anymore. I mean, World War II, there was a threat to the world there. We could see that. I'm not sure I agree with all the reasons why we were in it. However, there was enough there to prove to me why we were in it. Since then, I can't understand any of it. I mean, and my major was in history, and my minor was Southeast Asia. I can find nothing there. It says why this should be taking place. Terrorism, I understand. How long do you think terrorism has been around?
Probably a long time.
Long, thousands of years. It's not, you can't defeat it with a gun, because you can't kill a thought with a gun. So, we have to reprioritize things and how we look at things and how we approach them if we're going to accept we have to go to war. First of all, let's say if we're going to win. Just don't accept that idea that we're just going to go and then there's no end game. Can't have a war without an end game. Otherwise, it either goes on or you pull out and it never ended. But I've preached enough.
How did your wartime experiences affect your life?
On a daily basis. I don't sleep. I have a very short fuse. I don't like being around people, especially large groups of people that I don't know. I suffer from hypervigilance. Loud sounds can make me dive still to the ground. I mean, it's a myriad of different ways. And what you learn to do, or what I have learned to do, is you learn to cope with these things. They don't go away. They're always around. There's a tripwire out there someplace that you can hit that you don't know that's there, that's going to set off an emotion or a feeling. It's how you cope with it that's the important thing. It's how you get through your life. So I spend most of my life working with my coping skills to get by on a daily basis.
What effect did serving in the military have on your faith or your spirituality?
It's been non-existent ever since then. When you see the things I've seen, it's just too hard to even comprehend that there's a God. That a God will allow things like that to take place. Would allow men to do things they do to each other. I mean, that's not my God anyway.
Would you want your son or daughter to enter the military?
I would honestly have to leave that up to their choice. I would definitely talk to them and be very blunt with them. I would explain to them some of the things I've explained to you here. And then it's their choice. I would not try to stop them, no. I don't think that I would encourage them the way the world is now.
Are you part of any other veteran organizations?
Disabled Veterans of America. I'm a lifetime member of that.
What are some life lessons you learned in the military?
That you can do anything you want to do if you'll let your mind tell your body to do it. You can accomplish anything you want to accomplish if you set your mind to it. There is nothing. I mean, that's one thing I really loved about the military, is I knew that if I did this, this, and this is what the reward I would receive. It's like I did not want to wash toilets and scrub showers every morning. How do you not do that? You become the NCO in charge. It was very simple. So you set your goals. Okay, what tests do you have to take? What do you have to do to achieve the next rank? I like that simplicity. I like the structure, I guess, is the best way to put it. I miss the structure. I miss falling out for PT. I mean, that was never a problem. The guys used to complain, and no, it's a great way to start the morning.
What lessons would you pass on to today's generation?
Quit being so self-centered and try to think more in terms of team as opposed to I. You get so much more done working as a team. And I see a lot of people today just so concerned with themselves and what they're doing and what they have to accomplish and what they want in their life, as opposed to looking at a broader picture. How can I serve? You don't have to go in the military to serve. There's a lot of ways to serve your country. There's a lot of ways to serve your city, your county, etc. But you have to step out of the IME and look at becoming part of a team.
Is there anything I forgot to ask you about your military experience?
I don't think so, no. I think you've done a fantastic job. It's a lot of questions you've come up with there. Did you get any help from that guy? No, okay.
All right. Well, if that's it, then thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It's a